8-year-old Emma pressed her bloody fingertip against the window and wrote one more letter in the dirt, praying someone would see her desperate message before her little brother died in her arms. Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. Emma had been planning this moment for 3 days. 3 days of watching 6-year-old Marcus grow weaker in the basement where their stepfather had locked them. 3 days of rationing the last bit of water from the leaky pipe. 3 days of singing lullabies to keep her brother from crying too loud and making Carl angrier. But today was different. Today she heard motorcycles. The rumble of engines had never sounded so beautiful. Through the tiny basement window at ground level, Emma could see leather boots walking past, bikers. Everyone in the neighborhood knew about the Iron Wolves. They sold drugs, got into fights, and even the police stayed away from them. But Emma was desperate. Her diabetic brother needed insulin, and these dangerous men were her only hope. She pressed her face against the glass and used her finger to write in the years of accumulated dirt. Help. Rex, the president of the Iron Wolves, was discussing their next shipment with his lieutenants when something caught his eye. On the filthy window of the abandoned house next door, someone had written a message. He walked closer, squinting at the small, shaky letters. "What is it, boss?" Snake asked, following his gaze. Rex knelt down and saw the arrow Emma had drawn pointing to the basement window. Through the grimy glass, he saw a little girl's face staring back at him with the biggest, most terrified brown eyes he'd ever seen. She pressed her small hand against the window, and he could see dried blood on her fingertips from writing in the dirt. "Get everyone," Rex ordered. "Now." Emma watched the bikers gather around her window. She had to make them understand. She pointed at Marcus lying motionless on the moldy mattress behind her, then held up 6 fingers and made an injection motion with her hands. The bikers looked confused. Rex tried to open the window, but it was sealed shut. "Can you hear me?" he called out. Emma nodded frantically. She pointed up, indicating the house above, then made a drinking motion and put her finger to her lips. The message was clear. Someone upstairs, drinking, need to be quiet. "Is that your brother?" Rex asked, pointing at Marcus. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. She held up 3 fingers, then pointed at Marcus and made the injection motion again. 3 days without insulin. Rex had been around enough diabetics in prison to know what that meant. The kid was dying. "Listen to me," Rex said in a low, urgent voice. "Can you get out?" Emma shook her head and pointed to the basement door, making a locking motion. Then she did something that broke Rex's heart. She kissed her fingers and pressed them against Marcus's forehead, then looked back at Rex with eyes that said everything. "Please, save my brother, even if you can't save me." "Like hell we're leaving you in there," Rex growled. He turned to his men. "Call Doc, tell him to bring everything for a diabetic kid in crisis. Snake, get the tools. We're going in." Emma watched them scatter with a mixture of hope and terror. She crawled back to Marcus and held his hand. "Help is coming," she whispered. "The angels I told you about, they look different than in the stories, but they're here." Marcus's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. "Emma, I'm scared." "I know, baby. But remember what Mommy used to say? Sometimes heroes wear leather instead of capes." 10 minutes later, 20 motorcycles filled the abandoned parking lot. Doc jumped off his bike with a medical bag while other bikers surrounded the house. Rex returned to the window where Emma waited. "Sweetheart, we need to know the layout. How many ways in?" Emma held up 1 finger for the front door, then 2 for the back. She pointed up and held up 1 finger again, then made the drinking motion. 1 person upstairs, drunk. Then she did something brilliant. She found a piece of chalk in the basement and started drawing on the dark wall where Rex could see. A rough map of the house. "Smart girl," Snake murmured. "She's showing us where he is." Emma drew an X in what looked like the living room, then drew stairs and another X at the top. She pointed to herself and Marcus, then drew the stairs to the basement with a padlock symbol. "The basement door is locked from outside," Rex understood. "Inside the house," Emma nodded, then held up something that made the bikers curse, an empty insulin vial. She pointed at Marcus and shook her head. All gone, no more medicine. "How long has he been unconscious?" Doc called out. Emma held up fingers. 6 hours. Doc's face went grim. "We need to get in there now. That kid's organs are shutting down." That's when they heard footsteps above, heavy, stumbling footsteps. Emma's eyes went wide with terror. She put her finger to her lips and pulled Marcus closer, trying to shield him with her small body. The footsteps stopped directly above them. They heard Carl's slurred voice. "You brats better be quiet down there. I'm sick of your crying." Emma covered Marcus's mouth even though he was unconscious. The fear in her eyes made Rex's decision for him. "We're going in. Now." But Emma was already implementing her own plan. She'd noticed something the bikers hadn't. The window, while sealed, had a small crack at the bottom where water leaked in during the rain. She'd been working on it for days with a piece of metal she'd found, slowly widening the crack. She pointed at the crack and then at herself, making a squeezing motion. The bikers understood immediately. She might be able to squeeze through if they could break the window open just a little more. "You want us to break you out first?" Rex asked. Emma shook her head fiercely. She pointed at Marcus, then at the window, then made a carrying motion. She wanted them to be ready to take Marcus the moment she could unlock the door from inside. She was willing to risk herself to save her brother. "No way," Snake said. "We're not sending a little girl to face that drunk alone." But Emma was already in motion. She'd found an old screwdriver in the basement and was working on the window frame from inside while the bikers worked from outside. Years of paint and grime cracked away. The window loosened bit by bit. Suddenly, the basement door opened. Light flooded down the stairs. Carl's massive silhouette appeared at the top. "What's all that noise?" Emma did the bravest thing Rex had ever seen. She stood up, blocking Carl's view of the window, and spoke in a clear voice. "Marcus is really sick. He needs a hospital." "I told you to shut up about hospitals," Carl slurred, starting down the stairs. Emma backed away from Marcus, leading Carl away from the window where the bikers were almost through. "Please, he's dying. Just let me call 911. Carl laughed, an ugly sound. "One less mouth to feed. Your mom's dying anyway. Foster care ain't gonna want sick kids." That's when Emma revealed just how smart she'd been. "I left a note at school," she lied. "They'll come looking for us Monday." Carl froze. "You did what?" "Mrs. Patterson saw my bruises. She said she had to report it. They'll be here Monday morning." Emma kept backing away, keeping Carl focused on her. The window finally gave way with a quiet pop. Snake reached through, but Emma shook her head. Not yet. Carl was too close to Marcus. "You lying little brat," Carl snarled, lunging for Emma. She was ready. 3 days in the basement had taught her every obstacle, every hiding spot. She dodged around an old water heater, keeping Carl chasing her in circles while the bikers carefully lifted the unconscious Marcus through the window. "Got him," Doc whispered, immediately checking the boy's vitals. "He's in bad shape. Sugars over 600, severe DKA." Rex watched Emma continue to evade her stepfather with a mixture of awe and rage. The little girl was sacrificing herself to save her brother, but the game couldn't last. Carl cornered her against the wall. "Now you're gonna pay," he growled, raising his fist. That's when Emma smiled. "You hear that?" she asked. Carl paused, confused. Then he heard it. The sound of the front door being kicked in. The sound of heavy boots on the floor above. The sound of 20 very angry bikers entering his house. Emma dove past him toward the stairs. Carl tried to grab her, but she was already screaming at the top of her lungs. "Down here, in the basement! What happens next will show you just how far a little girl will go to save her brother, and how sometimes the most dangerous men become unlikely heroes." Stay tuned to see what happens next. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Snake was the first one. Down the stairs. Carl turned to face him, still drunk enough to be stupidly brave. "Get out of my house," Snake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Make me." Carl swung. Snake caught his fist and twisted. The sound of breaking fingers echoed in the basement. Carl screamed and dropped to his knees. Emma ran past them both, up the stairs and straight into Rex's arms. "Marcus," she gasped. "Is he okay?" "Doc's working on him," Rex assured her, carrying her outside. "You did good, little warrior. You saved your brother." Emma saw Doc kneeling over Marcus, pushing medications into his arm. Her brother's color was already improving. She started to cry for the first time in 3 days, not from fear or pain, but from relief. Hey, Rex said gently. "He's going to be okay. You both are." "My mom," Emma whispered. "She's in the hospital. She has cancer. Carl wouldn't let us see her." Rex's jaw tightened. Inside the house, they could hear Carl still screaming as Snake explained the new rules. Which hospital? St. Mary's, room 302. She's probably wondering where we are. Rex made a decision. Snake, wrap it up. We're taking these kids to their mom. The police arrived just as they were loading Emma and Marcus into a van. Sheriff Martinez stepped out, took one look at the situation, and walked directly to Rex. What happened here? Found 2 kids locked in a basement, Rex said simply. Boy's diabetic, almost dead. Girl had to write help in the window dirt to get our attention. Martinez looked at Emma, wrapped in a leather jacket that swallowed her small frame. Is that true, sweetheart? Emma nodded. Carl locked us down there 3 days ago. Marcus ran out of insulin. I tried to get help but couldn't get out until they saved us. Martinez headed into the house. He came back out with Carl in handcuffs, sporting a broken nose, 2 black eyes, and several missing teeth. Snake followed, cleaning his knuckles. Fell down the stairs, Snake explained, repeatedly. Martinez didn't even blink. Happens a lot in these old houses. The ride to the hospital was surreal. 20 motorcycles escorting a van with 2 kids, one still unconscious. Emma held Marcus's hand the whole way while Doc monitored his vitals. She told Rex everything during the ride, about their mom's cancer, how Carl had seemed nice at first, how things got worse after the medical bills started piling up. He said sick people were worthless, Emma whispered. Said Mom was going to die anyway, so why waste money on her medicine? Your mom's still fighting? Emma nodded. She's strong. But Carl stopped taking us to see her, said it was too expensive to drive there. At the hospital, the bikers caused quite a scene. 20 leather-clad men surrounding 2 small children, demanding immediate care. The staff rushed Marcus into the pediatric ICU while Emma refused to leave his side. I promised I'd protect him, she kept saying. A doctor finally convinced her to get checked out by promising she could return to Marcus right after. She had cuts on her fingers from writing in the window dirt, dehydration, and bruises covering her body. The nurse taking photos for evidence had tears in her eyes. You're very brave, the nurse told Emma. I had to be, Emma replied simply. Marcus needed me. While Emma was being treated, Rex made some calls. The Iron Wolves had connections everywhere, including the hospital. Within an hour, he knew which room held the children's mother. He also learned something that made his blood boil. She'd been asking for her kids every day, but Carl had told the staff they were with relatives. Can I see my mom? Emma asked when she returned to Marcus's room. He was stable now, hooked up to IVs and monitors, but breathing normally. Soon, Rex promised, but there's something else we need to handle first. A social worker arrived, clipboard in hand. I need to take both children into protective custody immediately. No, Emma jumped up. You can't take us away. Mom needs us. Sweetie, your mom is very sick, and your stepfather's under arrest. You need somewhere safe to stay. Emma looked at Rex with desperate eyes. You said we'd be okay. You promised. Rex stood up slowly, all 6 feet 4 inches of tattooed muscle. The kids stay with us until we sort this out. That's not how this works, the social worker insisted. Then change how it works, Rex growled. 20 bikers stood up behind him. Emma did something then that changed everything. She pulled out a small notebook she'd hidden in her sock. I wrote down everything, she said, handing it to the social worker. Every time Carl hurt us, every day he didn't feed us, every time he locked us up, with dates and times. The social worker flipped through page after page of careful documentation in a child's handwriting. You wrote all this? Mom taught me to document everything when she got sick. She said it was important for the doctors, so I did it for this too. The notebook was damning. 3 months of systematic abuse, carefully recorded by an 8-year-old girl who thought she might need evidence someday. There's more, Emma said quietly. She pulled out a small digital camera. Mom gave me this for my birthday. I took pictures when Carl wasn't looking. The photos made everyone in the room curse. Bruises, wounds, Marcus's insulin being poured down the sink. Carl passed out drunk while the children huddled together for warmth. Why didn't you show anyone before? The social worker asked gently. I tried. I showed Mrs. Patterson at school. She said she'd look into it. Nothing happened. I showed the policeman who lives down the street. He said kids make up stories. Carl found out and said if I tried again, he'd hurt Marcus. Emma's voice was steady, matter of fact. So I waited. I waited until I could find someone who would actually help. And you chose us? Rex asked, incredulous. A motorcycle club? Emma looked him straight in the eye. My real dad was a biker before he died. He said his club was family. He said bikers protect kids, always. I hoped he was right. Rex had to turn away. Snake wasn't even trying to hide his tears. These hardened criminals were being undone by a little girl's faith in her dead father's words. What was your dad's name? Rex asked. Tommy Mitchell. He died when I was 5. The room went silent. Rex and Snake exchanged looks. Tommy Torch Mitchell? Emma nodded. People called him Torch. Did you know him? Know him? Rex laughed, but it was choked with emotion. He saved my life in Iraq. We served together before we both joined clubs. The pieces fell into place. Tommy had been Devil's Disciples before he died in a construction accident. He'd talked about his kids all the time, about how he was going clean for them, and now his daughter had sought help from bikers because he'd taught her they were family. Call Austin, Rex ordered. Tell them we found Torch's kids. What happened next was like an army mobilizing. Within 2 hours, 50 Devil's Disciples were heading north from Texas. Tommy's brother, Thomas, was leading them. The social worker was on the phone with supervisors, judges, and lawyers. Emma's notebook and photos had changed everything, but Emma wasn't done being brave. Can we see Mom now? She asked. She needs to know we're okay. Rex carried Emma while a nurse wheeled Marcus in his bed. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor felt eternal. Emma was vibrating with nervous energy, desperate to see her mother, but terrified of what she might find. Room 302. Rex knocked gently. A weak voice called out, "Come in." Emma's mother lay propped up in bed, pale and thin, but with eyes that lit up like fireworks when she saw her children. My babies! Oh, my babies! Emma flew into her mother's arms, careful of the IV lines. Mommy, we're okay. We're okay. But how? Carl said you were with his sister. He said... Her voice trailed off as she saw the bikers filling her doorway. Who? Mom, they saved us, Emma said quickly. I wrote help on the window, and they saw it, and they saved Marcus and Carl's arrested, and we're safe now. Emma's mother looked at Rex with tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you for saving my children. Your daughter saved herself and her brother, Rex said honestly. We just provided backup. Emma's mother held her daughter's face gently. My brave girl. My smart, brave girl. I'm so sorry. I thought Carl would take care of you while I was here. It's okay, Mommy. I took care of Marcus like you taught me. They spent an hour in that room. Marcus woke up enough to smile at his mother. Emma told the whole story while sitting on her mother's bed, never letting go of her hand. The bikers stood guard outside, making sure no one interrupted this reunion. A doctor finally came in. Mrs. Mitchell, we need to talk about your treatment plan. Not Mitchell anymore, she said firmly. Sarah Coleman, I'm taking my maiden name back. The doctor nodded. Ms. Coleman, then. The good news is the new treatment is showing promise. The tumors have stopped growing. How long? Sarah asked quietly. With aggressive treatment? Possibly years without it. He didn't need to finish. What does aggressive treatment mean? Emma asked, always the practical one. It means your mom would need to stay here for at least another month, then outpatient therapy 3 times a week. Sarah closed her eyes. I can't afford that. And now with Carl arrested, I can't even afford to keep the house. Yes, you can, Rex said from the doorway. Torch's kids don't go without, not on our watch. Sarah looked confused. Torch? Your late husband saved my life in Fallujah, took a bullet meant for me. I've owed him a debt for 15 years. Rex's voice was rough with emotion. Let me pay it by helping his family. We're not a charity case, Sarah said with dignity. No, Snake agreed. Your family. Torch's family is our family. That's how this works. Emma understood before her mother did. Daddy always said the club was forever. Even after he died, we're still part of it, right? Smart girl, Rex confirmed. Once family, always family. The next few days were a whirlwind. Thomas Tank Mitchell arrived with the Devil's Disciples. He was Tommy's older brother, a successful contractor who'd been searching for his brother's family for years. Carl had intercepted his letters and calls, keeping them isolated. I should have pushed harder, Tank said, holding Emma like he'd never let go. I should have known something was wrong when the letters stopped. Carl said you didn't want us, Emma told him. He said Daddy's family thought we were trash. Tank's face darkened. That bastard better hope he stays in prison, because if I see him... Get in line, Rex growled. The custody hearing was a formality. With Emma's evidence, Carl was facing 20 years. Tank had already filed for emergency custody as the children's uncle. The judge took one look at Emma's notebook, saw the photos, and made her decision in minutes. Mr. Mitchell, I'm granting you temporary custody with a fast track to permanent adoption if the children's mother agrees. Sarah squeezed Tank's hand. Take care of my babies. I need to focus on getting better. We'll take care of all of you, Tank promised. You're moving to Texas as soon as you're stable enough. I've already talked to MD Anderson. They'll take your case. Emma looked worried. But what about the bills? Covered, Tank said simply. Your dad had life insurance through the union. Carl stole it. We're getting it back with interest. The story could have ended there, but Emma wasn't done being extraordinary. While Marcus recovered and their mother grew stronger, Emma became a fixture at the hospital. She'd visit other sick kids, bringing them drawings and stories. She organized the bikers to bring toys for the pediatric ward. She's got her daddy's heart, Tank said, watching Emma read to a younger child. Always thinking of others. One day, Emma asked Rex an important question. Why did you really help us? Most people think bikers are scary. Rex considered his answer carefully. We are scary, little warrior, to people who deserve it. But kids are off limits, always. And when we saw you in that window, saw how brave you were being for your brother, he paused. You reminded us that we can be more than what people think we are. Emma nodded solemnly. Daddy used to say that too. He said sometimes angels wear leather and ride loud bikes so the demons can hear them coming. 6 months later, the Coleman family was thriving in Texas. Sarah's treatment was working better than anyone had hoped. Marcus was healthy and active, his diabetes carefully managed. Emma had started a journal about their experience, which her teacher said was good enough to publish. But the best part was the family they'd gained. Every weekend, bikes would rumble up to Tank's house. Emma would run out to greet them, wearing her special vest, a gift from both clubs with patches reading Torch's daughter and the girl who wrote help. Carl was sentenced to 15 years. He'd pled guilty after his lawyer explained what would happen if he went to trial with bikers filling the gallery. The house where Emma and Marcus had been imprisoned was demolished. In its place, the clubs built a playground with a plaque. For all the children who write help and the angels brave enough to answer. Emma stood at the playground dedication, now 9 years old but wise beyond her years. She spoke to the crowd of bikers, families, and community members who'd gathered. People asked me if I was scared that day, she said, her voice clear and strong. I was. But Marcus needed me to be brave. And somehow I knew that the scariest-looking people might be the ones who'd help us. Because Daddy taught me that real strength isn't about looking tough. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. She looked at Rex and Snake and all the others who'd answered her call. You saved us. But more than that, you showed me that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they wear leather and ride motorcycles and have tattoos. And sometimes they're just little girls who know how to write help in window dirt. The crowd erupted in applause. Tough bikers wiped away tears. Sarah hugged her daughter tight. Marcus ran around, showing everyone his toy motorcycle, promising he'd ride a real one someday. Tank lifted Emma onto his shoulders so everyone could see her. This little warrior saved her brother's life. She's the bravest person I know. Emma smiled, thinking of that desperate day in the basement. She'd been terrified, but she'd remembered her father's words. When you need help, baby girl, look for the angels. They might not look like the pictures in your books, but you'll know them by their actions. She'd found them. Angels in leather, just like Daddy promised. Today, Emma is a social worker specializing in child protection. She rides a Harley to work and keeps her vest in her office where kids can see it. When she finds children in danger, she knows exactly who to call, the network of bikers who've made protecting kids their mission. Marcus is a pediatric nurse, inspired by Doc, who saved his life. He runs a program teaching bikers basic first aid so they can help in emergencies. His insulin pump has a small Harley-Davidson sticker on it. Sarah beat cancer and became an advocate for other patients. She married a man from Tank's construction crew who treats her kids like gold and rides with the devil's disciples on weekends. And in biker bars across the country, the story is told of the little girl who wrote help and the clubs who answered. It reminds them that sometimes the smallest acts of courage can change everything, that a child's faith can transform hardened criminals into heroes, and that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when you write help in window dirt. The basement window where Emma wrote her message was carefully removed before the house was demolished. It sits in the Iron Wolves clubhouse, a reminder of the day they chose to be angels instead of demons. Next to it hangs Emma's first notebook, donated by Tank, showing the careful documentation of a brave little girl who refused to let her brother die. Every year on the anniversary, both clubs gather at the playground. Emma always speaks, reminding them that every child deserves someone who will answer when they call for help. And every year, more clubs join the network, more bikers trained to spot signs of abuse, more children are saved. Because Emma Coleman proved that you don't need to be big or strong to be a hero. You just need to be brave enough to ask for help and smart enough to know that angels come in all forms, even ones that ride Harleys and wear leather and look like they'd scare the devil himself. That's the legacy of the girl who wrote Help. Not just that she saved her brother, but that she reminded dangerous men they could choose to be protectors instead. And sometimes, that's all the difference the world needs. Thank you for listening to this incredible story. Please subscribe to hear more amazing tales of unexpected heroes, and don't forget to click on one of the 2 stories on your screen for your next adventure.